So are you thinking about getting into rent to rent? Is rent to rent the strategy that's going to make you a property investor? It's going to get you into the world of property investing? Well, over the last 7 months, I have gone from no properties at all to managing 12 rent-to-rent properties right now on a service accommodation basis. And I want to tell you some of my top tips about how I've been able to scale as quick as what I have, how I've been able to manage the properties that I've actually got, and the trials and tribulations that have come across the way. So here's my 5 top tips about how to get into and how to manage your rent to rent. Starting off, number 1 is sourcing properties. So a lot of the time when people are thinking about sourcing properties, they feel like it's quite scary. It might be quite intimidating to call up agents, or it might be quite intimidating to pitch the idea to a landlord. But at the end of the day, you're offering a service which is only going to add benefit to every single party involved. You need to believe in what you're offering, and that what you're offering is better than everything else that's available currently on the market. And to be honest, it is so true. The benefits of rent to rent: you get guaranteed rent. There is no tenants involved in a rent to rent. There is no tenants' rights that are involved. So because your contract with a landlord means that you're doing a company let and it's not an actual tenancy agreement, you don't have any rights. So if you don't pay the rent, you're out. The contract's null and void. You can potentially offer to pay maintenance, and you can cover some of the internal work that needs doing to the property in terms of you might freshen it up and give it a new coat of paint and things like that. And doing that is only going to add value to the landlord's property. So if you had a normal tenant in there, the tenant wouldn't hold it to the standard that you're going to hold it. They wouldn't get cleaners in every week or in between every single one of their guests. And if you think about this and you think about these benefits to the actual landlord, it can be an absolute game changer for thinking about your mindset and when it comes to it, and actually thinking about the scarcity or the abundance mindset that you need to actually go into your rent to rent. I actually talked about this a lot more in one of my previous videos where I was speaking about negotiating rent to rent, and I actually got £700 off of a rent to rent deal with a landlord. So if you're interested in that, you can hit the iCard in the top corner. But rent to rent is an amazing strategy, and I thought I'd do something here of like, I've got my 5 top tips, but I thought I would ask ChatGPT what its top tips are for rent to rent. So ChatGPT, top tips for doing the rent to rent property strategy, and we can compare what I'm saying to what ChatGPT is saying and see who's better. Who's better, a machine or is it me? Right, let's see. Okay, we talked about sourcing, we talked about making it in the right location. Finding motivated landlords, that is very, very true. Getting solid contracts in place, that is very, very important. I ain't actually talked about contracts, so it's got one up on me. Managing the cash flow, obviously really important. It's doing more tips than what I were expecting. There we go, it's got 6 top tips here. So we've got choosing the right location, we have got finding the right motivated landlords, we've got getting a solid contract in place, which is obviously really important, managing the cash flow, which we're going to be talking about, and then building a strong network as well. I think is obviously, like I say, power team is something that we're going to be talking a little bit more about in this video today as well. And yeah, all of these tips are class, but I just thought it'd be an interesting, weird concept to add what an AI thought about the rent to rent strategy in there as well. So we'll go back to past Adam where he doesn't have Wi-Fi, where he can't do this, and we'll go from there. Point number 2 is talking about staging your properties. So a lot of the time, there's a lot of people that underestimate the amount of money that it actually takes to set up a rent to rent, to get a rent to rent furnished and ready to go. And even if you've got a fully furnished property, like one of the properties I took on was a duplex apartment in Liverpool. Really, really nice apartment, fully furnished, came with beds, sofa, dining table, chairs, TV unit and everything. And we still spent nearly £3,000 on that property getting it set up to SA standard. Even though you might get a furnished property, you're not getting furnished with all kitchen goods. You're not getting a TV potentially. You're not getting bedside tables or lamps or toiletry things and stuff like that. You're getting a property with the core furniture involved. So you have to account for all these small things. Don't forget, photography. If you're getting professional photography, that's expensive. When you get your cleaning team involved, the actual cleaning setup and them getting maybe a guide or a manual is actually quite expensive. Bedding. You need to have 3 sets of bedding for every single bed that you've got in the property. For example, if you use zip and link beds, which is another really key point to maximise your occupancy in service accommodation. Say you've got 2 zip and link beds in your property, that means you've got 4 potential single beds and you've got 2 potential double beds. So then to split them up, you're going to need 3 sets of linen for each one of the double beds, and you're going to need 3 sets of linen for one of the single beds, because you've got one that's clean, one that's on the bed and one that's been washed. So all of a sudden there, you've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 12 maths, and then you've got 15, 18 on your doubles. That's 18 sets of linen. That is not cheap. That is not cheap, and that is all coming into your setup cost that some people don't even think about. So it's making sure that you don't underestimate your actual setup cost. But then if you're thinking about that, and you think about, oh, I might use a staging company, and you might buy like a package deal. Again, there's going to be the labour on top of that as well. So you have to be thinking about all of these different things that are included in the actual setup costs of a property. And then we're going to go on to point number 3, and point number 3 is management. This isn't even talking about Airbnb and Booking.com, actually managing the properties. So how are you going to access your property? So there's a lot of times you may take an apartment and then the apartment can't have a key safe involved. So where are you going to put the keys? Where are you going to get access to the client? Because you don't want to be meeting them at the door every single time you get a new guest, because that is going to be a pain in the ass. That model there, that puts you more in the business and being an employee in your own business rather than removing you from the business and systemizing it. As property investors, we want our investment to be doing work for us. We don't want to be doing the work. So you need to be thinking about that. And there's useful things like KeyNest is a great example of this. This is where you use a local shop to hold your keys and things like that. But you've got to think about this beforehand. Just the same as with how are you going to utilize your systems to potentially check IDs of properties? Are you going to put things like a Ring doorbell on the camera so you can see if people are coming in and out? You're going to put something called like an air guide in your property where it's videos of explaining how to use the microwave, how to use the oven, how to use the heating systems and things like that. There's a lot of other little things that you've got to think about in actually building up your business to be the best business it possibly can be. And that kind of leads us on to point number 4, which is about utilizing the platforms that you are given. So there's been a lot of people that I've seen that have got into rent-to-rent. They have Airbnb over here, they have Booking.com over here, and they're trying to get direct bookings over here. And there's no synergy, or just literally 3 different platforms, 3 different calendars, and everything is running completely separately. And then you're not charging right in terms of your cleaning costs and things like that. And that is where my point number 4 is utilizing something called a channel management system. So a channel management system is a piece of software on your computer which takes your Booking.com, your Airbnb, your direct bookings, your own website, and synchronizes them into one calendar. And then what that one system then can do is every time you get a booking, it can email your cleaning team, it can have automated emails and automated messages that go out to the guests, and it just systemizes the entire business. It makes it so much more of an investment rather than it being kind of a job in a sense. And there's a lot of companies out there that do that. And that kind of leads me on to my last final tip is this isn't a side hustle. Rent to rent is not super easy. It's not something that you can just pick up and do, especially do it by yourself overnight. You need to have the correct people, the correct power team, the correct cleaners, maintenance, handyman, systems in place, communications, VAs potentially, to allow you to do this as hands-off as you possibly can. Because at the end of the day, when we're doing property investing, we want it to be an investment. We want our money to work for us. We don't want to work for our money. So if you are interested in rent to rent, you want to get into it as a potential path to your financial freedom, a path to get into property investing, then I would definitely say look into it. But I would obviously say consider all of these key points that I'm thinking about. Don't think that you can get into rent to rent or you can get into property, spend no money at all doing it, just talking to landlords. That's for another strategies. That's where like deal sourcing and other things like that come into play. If you want to do that, then I'm sure I will be doing more videos on that in the future, and there's loads of other videos out there that are really, really good and really useful for that. But if rent to rent is the thing that you're wanting to do and you're wanting to do service accommodation properties, just make sure you're thinking about my 5 key tips before you get into it and dive into it any further. If there's any other tips that you guys may have thought of, or there's any other tips that you want me to kind of maybe go over in more detail, I can do that in future videos, then please let me know in the comments below. Please subscribe to the channel, and if you are interested in rent to rent, you want to get involved, but you want more in terms of a hands-off approach where you want that power team, you want access to my power team and things like that, then please do book a call. We can have a chat. We can see how we can potentially work together to get you the property investments that you want and systemize it in the right way so it can be hands off for you and that you can make the most money out of your rent to rent opportunities. And not even that, I can even find the opportunities for you as well. I have an amazing team of deal sources, an amazing team of people that are finding rent to rent opportunities all over the country all the time. So if you're interested in that, please hit me up and book a call, and the link to that will be in the top of the description. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Leave me a comment, like I say, if you've got got any other tips that you want me to cover, or there's any other pointers that you think that is a really good point about rent to rent, leave them in the comments below and I'll be sure to cover them in future videos as well. But yeah, I hope that this has been helpful, guys. Please like the video, subscribe if you're new, leave the notification bell on because there will be a lot of content coming very, very soon, and I will speak to you soon. Bye, guys.